After the relocation of the dogs, will the minister state what services will be provided in the new shelters to ensure the welfare of the animals? Thank you.
And rest assured that welfare of animals is of great concern to one and all. You just have to refer to the provisions of the legislation, and whoever fails to live up to expectation can be subjected to a maximum fines.
The Honourable Third Member for Bubwa,
Before to 6, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, my ministry dissolved the Managing Committee of the Mauritius Badminton Association on the 10th March 2026 pursuant to Section 99 of the Sport Act 2016. In accordance with Section 99C2 of the Sport Act 2016, a temporary committee and not an interim committee, as stated by the Honourable Member, has been set up. The mandate of the temporary committee is to organize fresh elections within 3 months. By way of a letter dated 10 March 2026, my ministry informed the Mauritius Olympic Committee of its decision to dissolve the Managing Committee of the Mauritius Badminton Association. It was further consulted the Mauritius Olympic Committee with respect to the setting up of a temporary committee pursuant to Section 99C2 of the Sport Act 2026. In that spirit, my ministry invited the Mauritius Olympic Committee to nominate one person to serve as a member on the temporary committee. On 18 March 2026, I even had a meeting with the president of the Mauritius Olympic Committee, and on that same day, the latter informed my ministry that they had referred the matter to the legal department of the International Olympic Committee. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, on 30th March 2026, the Mauritius Olympic Committee informed my ministry of its decision not to participate in the temporary committee for the time being, unless so agreed by the International Olympic Committee. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the temporary committee is chaired by Mr. Nicolas Bolli. The latter is a member of the Board of Directors of the Mauritius Multi-Sport Infrastructure Limited. The two other members are as follows. Mr. Sudesh Kumar Apadu is the Acting Assistant Director of Sport at my ministry and is a desk officer for badminton. And Mrs. Rajini Jenkisho Senjoria is an acting principal inspector of association. Mr. Imrit, a sport officer from my ministry, is the secretary. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I wish to inform the House that there are no established criteria under the present legislation for the selection and appointment of the members of a temporary committee. That is being said, the overriding criterion is the availability and commitment of the members to make arrangements for the holding of election within 3 months of a fully fledged new managing committee. I repeat myself, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that there is no established criteria under the present legislation for the selection and appointment of the members of the temporary committee.
Vice-président, avec votre permission.
Oui.
Et l'honorable ministre peut-il dire à la Chambre pourquoi il s'obstine à nommer des activistes politiques à des postes décisionnels, alors que nous savons tous qu'il faut à tout prix éviter de mélanger le sport à la politique ou la politique au sport. Et là, je fais référence à la nomination de M. Nicolas Bolli en tant que chairperson, président du comité temporaire dont l'honorable ministre lui-même vient de nous informer.
Minister?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that being said, there is nothing that prevents a person who is active in politics to be involved in a sport as well when person is chairing the temporary committee. There is no political affiliation or not, but he is doing his job independently.
Monsieur le vice-président, je ne comprends pas comment peut-on, au niveau du sport, ça qu'il est stipulé que les activistes politiques, que les personnes engagées en politique n'ont pas le droit d'être des membres d'une fédération, de présider à une fédération, et là, par rapport à un comité temporaire, un caretaker committee, qui va supposément remettre en ordre toute une fédération de badminton.
Put your question, please.
Donc, ceci dit, monsieur le vice-président, le ministre est-il au courant que la Badminton World Federation, qui est la fédération internationale de badminton, reconnaît toujours le comité dissous par le ministère des Sports et lui confère même le pouvoir d'engager des athlètes dans des compétitions internationales. Et avec votre permission, monsieur le vice-président, je dépose une copie de la lettre adressée au président sortant de la Fédération de badminton par le président du World Badminton Association.
I don't really get your question exactly what you want to ask. Put your question straight and I'm going to answer you.
My question is very straight, monsieur
Okay,
le vice-président. Je demande à l'honorable ministre, est-ce qu'il est au courant que la Badminton World Federation, qui est l'instance suprême du badminton au niveau international, cette instance reconnaît toujours le comité qui a été dissous et lui confère à ce comité le pouvoir d'engager des athlètes dans des compétitions internationales. Est-ce que l'honorable ministre est au courant, a-t-il pris connaissance de la lettre qui est parvenue au président sortant de la Fédération de badminton?
Oui, je suis au courant.
Okay, next question. The Honorable Second Member of Gombe, Putudo.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir. B427.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed by the NLTA that presently there is no designated taxi stand in Goodlands. Taxis with base of operation at Goodlands and adjoining localities of Goodlands operate from side roads to the Royal Road, which serves as passenger generating cash materials. I am also informed that following a request from the Rivière-du-Rempart District Council, a joint site visit was carried out on 8th of October 2025 at Plateau Road, Goodlands, in the presence of the three elected members of the constituency number 6, to consider the creation of a taxi stand thereat to accommodate taxis currently operating in the locality. However, the proposal was not retained as the road is relatively narrow with a width of approximately 4.6 meters and is also used by a 30-seater buses operating along Route 187, Mademoiselle Jeanne to Belmont Traffic Center. The NLTA is not in the presence of any proposal for a taxi stand at Kings Road, Goodlands, which is part of the question. Accordingly, Deputy Speaker, sir, the NLTA, according to the NLTA, there are 107 taxis licensed in the area of Goodlands with different designated bases of operations. Appointing an official taxi stand in accordance with Section 103 of the Road Traffic Act will entail operational issues as it will exclude 35 taxi operators licensed at adjoining bases in Goodlands. This is a principle, actually. And those bases are Atlas Road, Bois Rouge, CB Road, and Mademoiselle Jeanne for accessing the facility. This will give rise to constant source of dispute and ongoing friction between those based in Goodlands and those not based in the main village. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed that there is a plot of state land of an extent of 757.7 meters square at Kings Road, about 50 meters from the main road, which is vested in the Prime Minister's office currently. I am further informed by the District Council of Rivière-du-Rempart that the road is narrow, 4 meters wide instead of 6 meters. The more so, it is served by feeder buses and has no reserves, which causes accessibility issues and is therefore not suitable for taxi stand parking thereat. I can table the letter for the information of the honourable member, the one from Rivière-du-Rempart.
Okay, table the letter.
Yes.
Finish?
To end, Deputy Speaker, sir, I invite the honourable members to pursue consultations at their level and identify a suitable plot of land at Goodlands, following which the NLTA will be requested to have a joint site visit with the stakeholders concerned, namely the TRMSU, the police, and to assess the viability of the site and feasibility of the project.
Okay, supplementary.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir.
Oh, it's still at King's Road in Goodlands.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, the minister has taken us now a bit.
Exactly.
Stick to
Will
King's
the
Road.
Honourable Minister inform the House, in view of Goodlands taxi current corners at Plateau Road Goodlands, Atlas Road Goodlands, Ayamande Road Goodlands, and even near police station, which are high demand areas, if we can conduct a site visit together with you and relevant authorities as soon as possible?
Yes, I will be very pleased to do that. Okay. Last week I attended site visit at your neighbor, constituency number 7. I will be very glad to do that.
Honourable fourth member for Port Restores and Mount Island.
Speaker, it's good to have you back, by the way.
Thank you.
Glad to see you. B428.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as the House would know, for a court order to be issued, there must be an application made for such a court order. And in view of the subject matter of the question, it is clear that such court orders would only be applied for by investigative agencies. Now, the Honourable Whip of the Opposition must know as a law practitioner that all such applications are usually made before the judge in chambers, the more so ex parte, so that it would be impossible for the information sought to be obtained. Furthermore, the question seeks to have information about operational issues at the level of investigative agencies like the police and the FCC. And my view is that there is no ministerial responsibility to answer such a question as it relates to operational issues pertaining to these agencies. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the House may wish to note that by virtue of Section 161 of the FCC Act, no information relating to any investigation can be divulged, and the exception provided for under the law would not apply to parliamentary questions. Moreover, it is worthy to mention also that under Section 1313 of the FCC Act, even the parliamentary committee, which includes members of Parliament, is precluded from seeking information regarding any investigation.
That's what.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, my question relates to the functioning, the mechanism in place as to the implementation of judge's order. As the Attorney General, can he enlighten us as to how, in practice, judge's order are effectively adhered to by whichever institution that may be, when it comes to interference and monitoring?
The answer remains the same. It is an operational issue, and we are not going to divulge any information regarding operational issues at the level investigative and agencies. Le secret de l'instruction, Monsieur le Vice-président, est d'une importance capitale.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, if I may I ask the Honourable...
If you have a specific case...
No, yes, I'm not going to argue with the Attorney General and seek the answer that he is not willing to give. However, what I am going to ask the Attorney General is, I will refer him to the statement here made by the Prime Minister with regards to acknowledging that there has been a phone monitoring and monitoring of telephone conversation, and that the said system had been shut down. That were the assurances given in this House during the answer to my own question in PQB6, dated 4th of February 2025. In light of this, I would like to ask the Honourable Attorney General whether, yes or no, has the system been shut down and are judges' order thus being implemented or not, in light of this statement?
There are two questions within one. I will answer the first part of it. The first part is whether the answer given by the Honourable Prime Minister to PQB6 and thereafter PQB15 is still true today, and the answer is yes.
Okay, the third, no, you've got it. The third member for Vacoas, you have had enough.
Mr. Deputy Speaker,
Honorable Joanna Béraud.
B429.
Monsieur le Président, je souhaite aborder en priorité la partie C de la question.
Selon les informations communiquées par le Central Electricity Board, le raccordement de 2 projets aux sous-stations de Bellevue dépend en grande partie du relief sur des terrains appartenant à Nova Terra. Or, dans une lettre en date du 8 décembre 2025 adressée à Correct Solar, et dont copie m'a été transmise, Nova Terra a clairement signifié son refus d'accorder ces autorisations. Il y est expressément indiqué que toute tentative du promoteur, donc Correct Solar, d'aller de l'avant dans ce sens se heurtera à leur opposition légale. Monsieur le Président, dans ce contexte, il apparaît que les sociétés Bellevue 2 et Bellevue 3 se trouvent aujourd'hui dans l'incapacité d'obtenir les accès nécessaires à l'eau et livre, ce qui constitue un obstacle sérieux à la concrétisation de ces projets. S'agissant de la partie B de la question, je suis informé par le Central Electricity Board que, conformément aux dispositions des Power Purchase Agreement, le raccordement de ces 2 projets au réseau électrique est prévu au niveau de la sous-station de Bellevue. Je suis également informé que ces dispositions ne feront l'objet d'aucune modification. Monsieur le Président, s'agissant de la partie A de la question, je suis informé que les retards accumulés dans ce projet ne relèvent pas du hasard, mais se trouvent leur origine dans des décisions contestables prises sous l'ancien conseil d'administration du Central Electricity Board, alors sous l'autorité du précédent gouvernement. Et en effet, il apparaît clairement que 2 changements successifs de site ont été approuvés après l'attribution du contrat, ce qui constitue, à mon avis, une entorse sérieuse à la logique même du processus d'appel d'offres. Le premier déplacement de Bellevue vers Bedjutombo a été validé le 9 novembre 2023. Le second, de Bedjutombo vers Mar d'Australia, a été approuvé le 15 avril 2024. Monsieur le Président, ces décisions prises sans cadre suffisamment rigoureux et en totale rupture avec les paramètres initiaux du projet ont inévitablement désorganisé sa mise en œuvre. Elles portent aujourd'hui une responsabilité directe dans les retards constatés, soulèvent à juste titre des sérieuses interrogations quant à la gestion de ce dossier à l'époque. Monsieur le Président, je suis informé que le Central Electricity Board, je suis informé par le Central Electricity Board, que les sociétés de Bellevue 2 et Bellevue 3 n'ont toujours pas rempli les conditions prévues, les conditions préalables, donc les conditions precedentes, dans leur PPA. Donc, ces projets enregistrent des retards répétés dans l'obtention de plusieurs autorisations essentielles, notamment pas de IAE, pas de LCP et pas de BLUP. Monsieur le Président, ces retards liés à des procédures administratives sont évoqués comme relevant des cas de force majeure au sein des dispositions des PPA. Sur cette base, le promoteur a sollicité et obtenu une déclaration de force majeure pour une durée de 6 mois, suivie d'une période de look and see, d'après les PPA, de 3 mois. Je suis informé que la période de look and see pour le projet de 30 MW de Bellevue 2 a pris fin le 31 octobre 2025, donc l'année dernière, tandis que celle relative au projet de 30 MW de Bellevue 3 s'est achevée le 14 avril 2026, il y a quelques jours de cela. Compte tenu de la situation, mon ministère a sollicité et obtenu à 5 reprises l'avis juridique de la State Law Office. Les implications juridiques et financières d'une éventuelle résiliation des contrats d'achat d'électricité ont été clairement établies. Monsieur le Président, à l'heure où je vous parle, plus de 3 ans se sont écoulés depuis la signature du PPA en février 2023 entre le Central Electricity Board et Correct Solar International. Et pourtant, le promoteur ne dispose toujours pas du IAE, du Land Convention Permit, du Building and Land Use Permit, ni les reliefs pour accès à ces lieux liés à ces projets. Par ailleurs, la finalisation du financement demeure suspendue à l'obtention de l'ensemble des autorisations. Monsieur le Président, comme je l'ai indiqué, Bellevue 2 et Bellevue 3, la majorité des reliefs nécessaires à la mise en œuvre de ces 2 projets se situent sur des terrains appartenant à Nova Terra. À ce jour, les promoteurs n'ont pas obtenu les reliefs requis auprès de Nova Terra. Monsieur le Président, le 1er octobre 2025, le promoteur a invoqué l'article 37A, donc le promoteur c'est Correct Solar, a invoqué l'article 37A de la loi sur l'électricité de 2024
afin de tenter d'obtenir ces reliefs par voie légale. Le 17 octobre 2025, Tora Group et Novatera ont formellement rejeté la demande de relief, exprimant une opposition claire, explicite et sans équivoque. Le 17 novembre 2025, le promoteur a notifié à Terra Group et Novatera son intention de saisir l'UORE à défaut d'accord dans un délai de 21 jours. Ce délai a expiré le 7 décembre 2025, l'année dernière, sans qu'aucune autorisation n'a été accordée. Le 8 décembre 2025, Novatera a réitéré son refus catégorique et a confirmé son opposition à la demande des reliefs, ainsi qu'à toute démarche ultérieure du promoteur. Le 6 janvier 2026, cette année, Corexola a saisi l'UORE. Le 16 janvier 2026, une demande de détermination de relief right a été déposée auprès de l'UORE. Le dossier est actuellement en cours d'examen. Monsieur le Président, la chronologie que j'ai mise en avant il y a quelque temps mis en évidence un point central, le refus constant, répété et formalisé du groupe Terra d'accorder les reliefs indispensables à la réalisation des projets, malgré l'activation des dispositifs légaux et plusieurs démarches successives du promoteur, aucune autorisation n'a été obtenue. Les positions de Novatera ont été claires, répétées et sans ambiguïté, avec un refus explicite de toute demande de relief ainsi que toute démarche ultérieure. Dans ces conditions, Monsieur le Président, les projets de Bellevue font face à un obstacle fondamental et définitif sur un élément essentiel de leur mise en œuvre. Il ne s'agit plus d'une difficulté administrative, ni d'un différend en cours de règlement, mais d'une impossibilité concrète d'obtenir des reliefs nécessaires au vu du refus maintenu par le propriétaire foncier. Dès lors, Monsieur le Président, ces projets ne disposent plus de base réelle de réalisation. Leur mise en œuvre apparaît compromise de manière structurelle, ce qui fait que le projet est voué, à mon avis, à une mort naturelle. Ceci dit, Monsieur le Président, il a été décidé, en toute responsabilité, et après un examen rigoureux de la situation juridique et contractuelle, de demander de manière générale au board de la Central Electricity Board d'examiner la résiliation de ces deux contrats de Corexola. Il ne s'agit pas d'une décision prise à la légère, c'est une décision dictée par la réalité des faits, par l'intérêt public et par la nécessité de protéger la crédibilité du système énergétique du pays, du CEB. On parle ici de 60 MW. Monsieur le Président, le CEB mettra en œuvre les procédures requises conformément aux dispositions prévues dans les PPA.
Je remercie l'honorable ministre. Peut-il nous dire combien de pénalités ont été appliquées jusqu'à l'heure et combien ont été effectivement reçues?
Les pénalités qu'on a appliquées jusqu'ici, il y a 2 fois 30 millions. Donc 60 millions ont été appliqués. Et là, le promoteur a un dépôt au CEB de mémoire autour de ce montant. Oui.
Yes.
Que ce dépôt sera retenu en cas de résiliation du contrat?
Et je me suis posé la question, moi aussi, et le CEB m'a expliqué, je vous donne ce que légalement, comment cela va se faire. Donc, the CEB shall first issue a notice of intended termination to the promoter, ce qui va être fait si le board prend la décision, comme je l'ai indiqué ici. The CEB shall grant the promoter 15 days time to make a representation, selon le PPA. CEB may, after the end of the 15 days period, whether or not in receipt of such representation, in its sole discretion, issue the termination notice. En ce qui concerne, pour répondre à votre question, en ce qui concerne the development security, là, on se réfère to clause 6.2 du PPA qui dit que development security is encashed when there is a seller default. And in case of termination due to force majeure evade, the CEB shall release the development security. Donc, c'est au département légal et le dossier va aller au SLO pour décider à ce moment-là la marche à suivre.
une précision pour plus de clarté. Le Central Electricity Board n'avait-il pas déjà donné son accord pour issue le notice of termination, of intended termination?
Non, pas encore.
Third member for Flag-Bulaki.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir. B 430.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, in regard to the question, I wish to state unequivocally that this government attaches the highest importance to the development of appropriate infrastructure for the promotion of drama, music, and the arts among our youth. It is true that, given the prevailing situation, the construction of a new large-scale infrastructure cannot be undertaken indiscriminately and must be carefully prioritized within the national budgetary framework. However, while the current economic context requires prudence, this government is taking concrete steps to prioritize and sequence projects in a responsible and sustainable manner, unlike in the past, where investment were not always aligned with national priorities. Mr. Deputy Speaker, when this government took office, the arts and culture sector was characterized by years of neglect. Key facilities, including the Séance Constantin Theatre, had remained closed and underutilized for prolonged periods, depriving an entire generation of young Mauritians of access to proper artistic platforms. Decisive action has since been taken. The STC has been partly rehabilitated and reopened in September 2025. And further investments are going on at both the SCT and Pointe Cano Open Air Theatre to expand access and increase capacity for youth engagement in the arts. Mr. Deputy Speaker, at the same time, my ministry is not waiting passively for new infrastructure to materialize. We are actively maximizing the use of existing facilities, including the Conservatoire National de Musique François Mitterrand Trust Fund and its regional branches, as well as the 4 centres de formation artistique situated at Payot, Mayberg, Plaine des Papayes, and Bel-Air-Rivière-Chess, whilst continuing to examine how access to artistic training and practice may be further broadened. In that connection, one of the avenues that we'll explore is the use of the other government buildings and other regional facilities to bring drama, music, and arts activities closer to the youth. This matter will be considered more fully in the context of the work of the National Arts Open Commission, one set up so that any such approach forms part of a coherent and sustainable strategy for the sector. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I wish to seize this opportunity here to inform the House that my ministry has already launched calls for drama festival in Urdu and English language. The preliminaries are due to start in May 2026 with the finals in June 2026. In addition, the Centre de Formation Artistique are offering the following courses in artistic fields such as music, dance, drama, and arts till the end of May 2026, and new courses will start in September 2026. Needful is being done at the level of my ministry to recruit some 30 additional part-time instructors in all artistic fields to deliver the courses. Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me be very clear. The issue at hand is not only one of infrastructure, but one of national urgency. In a context where our youth are increasingly exposed to social ills, including drug abuse and delinquency, it would be irresponsible for my ministry and this government to remain passive. Arts and culture provide structured engagement, purpose and discipline, and form part of a broader strategy to safeguard our youth and strengthen social cohesion. Mr. Deputy Speaker, government is also actively pursuing international partnerships, including with India, to secure the provision of musical instruments and technical support, thereby accelerating access to training without placing undue pressure on public finances. Furthermore, the forthcoming NOAC will bring for the first time a coherent and strategic direction to the sector, ensuring that future investments in infrastructure are targeted, impactful, and aligned with long-term national vision. Mr. Deputy Speaker, this government is not only committed to building infrastructure when resources permit. It is already delivering results, expanding access and correcting years of systemic neglect. The objective is clear: to ensure that every young Mauritian with talent in the arts is given the opportunity, the space, and the support to develop their talent.
The first member for Rakavel Phoenix.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. B431, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I wish to thank the Honourable Member for his question regarding the development and construction of the Vacoas Urban Terminals project. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed that the request for proposals for this project was launched on 13 February 2024 and closed on 14 May 2024. Since the closure of the bidding exercise, no letter of awards has been issued, no promoter has been selected, and no contractual agreement has been entered into. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, for public procurement is governed by the strict principle of fairness, transparency, value for money, and due diligence. In this context, I wish to emphasize that under the clause 14 of the request for proposal, government reserves the right to amend, vary, or withdraw the process at any time without incurring any liability. Subsequently, in the absence of any award or contract, there exists no legal obligations towards any bidder or no financial liability accrued to government. This position is fully in line with established procurement rules and supported by the legal advice. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am aware that correspondence and representations have been received from interested parties, including joint venture entities. However, such exchange form part of the normal qualification process in any procurement exercise. They do not constitute any commitment, undertakings, or promise by government, nor do they confer any right or entitlement to any party. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the request for proposal set out stringent and comprehensive requirements. Bidders are required to submit preliminary conceptual designs, detailed business plans, feasibility studies, and financial structures. They must also demonstrate the financial capacity to mobilize financing of the order of 800 million rupees, provide audited financial statements and annual reports for the last 5 consecutive years, and show proven experience in projects of similar scale and complexity. Given the magnitude, complexity, and financial implication of this project, it would have been premature and contrary to good governance to proceed with any award without ensuring full compliance with these requirements and without a thorough evaluation in accordance with procurement rules. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, government is therefore undertaking a comprehensive reassessment of the project. This includes ensuring proper integration with National Transport Planning Framework, alignment with the requirements of key stakeholders such as the National Land Transport Authority, and strict compliance with the bus station and taxi stand requirements. It also involves a review of the technical specification and operational model, as well as a reassessment of the financial structure to ensure long-term sustainability and value for money. This ongoing process explains why no further updates have been issued at this stage to certain stakeholders. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the position is clear. The project has not been cancelled, no promoter has been selected. The government retained full discretion under the request for proposal. Any decision to proceed will be taken only after the completion of all legal, technical, financial, and administrative evaluation in full compliance with our government policies.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Yes, may I ask the Honourable Minister, in as much as there is no clear-cut policy whether this is being shelved or you're going ahead with this Vacoas urban terminal, may we know the time frame as to what proposals government will come forward? Because in this region, the lands that were being earmarked are being used for the time being to cater for traffic problems within the Vacoas market fair. So is there any clear-cut policy in the near future for this Vacoas urban terminal, whether it is going or not?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, far from any delay or inaction from the Ministry, this matter is being handled with the utmost diligence and responsibility. And it will be very transparent and in the best of the public. By the way, if traffic congestion is in Vacoas, we can clear with the Council Urban Ability of Fund, we can clear the land for the additional parking space for the market.
Okay. Second member for Belrose, Calmon.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. B432.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I would like to first thank the honourable member for her follow-up question on the NTC, following her PQs B370 of 15 April 2025 and B430 of 6 May 2025, during which I had replied that the Financial Crimes Commission was carrying out an inquiry on the counterfeit spare parts procured by the former management of the NTC and that the inquiry was still going on. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the House will recall my informing on the extreme mismanagement and corrupt practices then prevailing at the NTC, which has resulted in the dire situation in which the corporation is today, but both at operational and financial levels. I am informed by the management of the NTC that 1/5 of its fleet of buses are being kept off the roads due to breakdown and spare parts issues, although these buses are within the legal age of authorizing them to be operational, that is 21 years of age. We are talking about 100 buses. That is why in November 2023 in PQB 1405, during my days as an opposition MP, I had questioned the then Minister of Land Transport on the alleged malpractices occurring at the NTC. The population will recall how the then Speaker had brutally and vehemently prevented me from addressing additional questions to the then Minister. The reason for then suppressing facts...
Minister, the question is simple. Whether there has been an inquiry and where matters stand.
Yeah, I'm coming to it.
Can we please stick to the question?
Yes.
We don't want to go back to the ex-speaker.
Okay. I am informed by Mr. Deputy Speaker, I am informed by the General Manager of the NTC this morning that several spare parts items have been purchased by the then management at prices that range for more than 3 times, even going up to 25 times higher than current spare parts. Nobody in the House, by any stretch of imagination, could ever believe that an item could be acquired 25 times more than its normal price. This is sheer daylight robbery. As a matter of fact, the NTC has provided me with a long list of such abusive purchasers, which list is not exhaustive. I am tabling a list of 8 items for which there are supporting documents for the information of the House. The long list is still being compiled, but I have it with me anyway. I have also with me a list of 29 items where the NTC is still compiling, like I said, supporting documents, and wherein it appears that some items have been acquired as more than 60 times, like I said. In addition, counterfeit spare parts were also acquired at high prices equivalent to the price of genuine spare parts, or some items even higher or repeatedly stated to me by Honourable Jaggernet himself in the domain, particularly on the purchase of crankshafts, which example I had mentioned in the House before. I have today with me supporting documents which prove that the crankshaft has been purchased 4 times more than its current market price. That is 365 rupees each instead of 89,600 rupees at current market price. This appalling situation of mismanagement and corrupt practices resorted to by the former management is the reason as to why 20 to 25% of the fleet today is off the road, as I mentioned. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as per information provided by the NTC, a single supplier of spare parts, AV World Spare Parts Limited, has benefited over 380 million rupees of businesses between 2020 and 2024. It was a preferred supplier of the previous management, and the underlying reasons, therefore, for an easy guess. Based on the extremely abusive prices paid to that supplier, as evidenced by document I will table, the NTC has had to spend hundreds of millions of rupees more on spare parts than purchased. This money could have certainly been used more judiciously to acquire scores of new buses for the benefit of the NTC and of the travelling public. It is necessary to underline here that the former general manager of the NTC, Mr. G.R.R., has been formally charged with an office for public officials using office for gratification by the FCC in December 2025 in connection with a contract of procurement of bus tires. I am tabling a copy of the communiqué issued by the FCC on 22nd December 2025. The communiqué also underlines that the matter has already been referred to the Director of Public Prosecution. The House will surely take note that in spite of the fact that the NTC was plagued with corruption, and an inquiry was initiated by the FCC against the former general manager since May 2023, that is way before the general elections of November 2024, the previous regime maintained Mr. G.R.R. in post unscathed. I wonder why so much leniency was shown and no immediate measure taken to prevent any possible interference in the inquiry. I'm going to finish soon. I even asked myself whether the motive for no financial accounts to be filed by the NTC for some 10 years prior to 2025 was not meant to deliberately hide disturbing facts and figures. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed that the FCC is currently inquiring into the supply of counterfeit spare parts acquired during the period 2020 to 2024. Thank you.
Yes, we got a supplementary.
I've got two, please.
One by one.
Yes, thank you. Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Vice-président. L'honorable ministre a évoqué une très longue liste de la CNT comportant des prix excessifs, notamment pour des pièces de rechange prétendument contrefaites. Pourrait-il en déposer une copie de la liste complète? Merci.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I had mentioned our communique, the communique and the first list, and the long list that the Honourable Mayor has requested for is here with supporting documents.
Okay, next one, last one.
Last one. Thank you. Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Le ministre peut-il indiquer à la Chambre les mesures concrètes qui seront prises eu égard à ce grand préjudice causé à la CNT dont il porte la responsabilité en sa qualité de ministre? Merci.
Well, like I mentioned in my substantive reply, there appear to be two cases, one for which has already been lodged at the Financial Crime Division of the Intermediary Court, and the second one, the inquiry is still ongoing. So, as regards the long list that I mentioned.
The Honourable Third Member for Culture, Media, Muka.
Yeah, B433, please.
You, Minister, you got the floor again. 31. 433. Yes. Okay. Short answer.
I have 10 PQs on me today, so quite long list.
Try to be brief. Straight to the point.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed that the following a site visit on 24th April 2025 at the junction of Valetta bypass B6 and the Mosul-Mobi RS2 side road. The TRMSU proceeded with the installation of a fixed speed camera along Valetta bypass. This decision was reached in consultation with the elected members of constituency number 8, as well as village councillors and representatives from the police to enhance road safety. I have to mention that Honourable Venkateswamy has always been following on this issue, time and again. As such, the works order for civil works for the installation of speed camera was issued on 10 November 2025 for a value of 409,000 250 rupees, 50 cents, inclusive of VAT, and the speed camera equipment was installed in December 2025 at the identified locus. The CEB subsequently completed the works by the installation of additional poles in February this year. I am further informed that the traffic signs for the speed camera were installed on 1st April 2026 and the road markings were completed on 10th April 2026. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, to reply to the specific question of the honourable member, I am pleased to inform the House that the speed camera is already operational since yesterday, Monday, 20th of April 2026. The speed limit for the area is 60 kilometers per hour. A communique has even been issued to that effect. All right.
Honourable First Member Rodrigues.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir. Question 434, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Rodrigues Regional Assembly that following the incident whereby unstable boulders rolled onto the coastal road near Anse-Raffin in Rodrigues on 5th April 2026, a survey was conducted by the Deputy Chief Commissioner's Office. The findings of the survey indicate that the embankment is unstable over a stretch of approximately 115 meters with an average height of about 15 meters. The instability has been attributed to prolonged landslide and erosion over time. I wish to inform the House that the geotechnical unit of my ministry, as well as the Road Development Authority, have not, as at date, received any formal request to investigate the matter. Nevertheless, my ministry stands committed to carrying out the necessary investigations and providing appropriate technical guidance upon request from the Rodrigues Regional Assembly. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, with regard to Part B of the question, I'm informed by the Rodrigues Regional Assembly that remedial works are being envisaged, including slope stabilization through major earthworks and the construction of a masonry retaining wall. I am further apprised by the geotechnical unit of my ministry that given the geomorphological characteristics of the area, the risk of recurrence remains significant and further assessments would be necessary to determine appropriate long-term mitigation measures. These include, first, detailed geotechnical surveys to identify high-risk zones. Second, construction of retaining structures where necessary. Third, the installation of rockfall barriers. And fourth, afforestation and vegetation reinforcement along vulnerable slopes. The RDA has on its part indicated that it will continue to collaborate with the Rodrigues Regional Assembly under the existing framework of cooperation. Mr. Deputy Speaker, my ministry remains committed to working closely with the Rodrigues Regional Assembly to ensure that appropriate measures are implemented to enhance the resilience and safety of road infrastructure in Rodrigues. As such, a team comprising officers from the geotechnical unit and the RDA would proceed shortly to Rodrigues for a survey.
Speaker.
Just to extrapolate on what the Honourable Minister is saying, the survey, will it be carried out only on this specific site, or will they be looking at the over susceptible landslide or unstable terrain around the island?
I'm sure the Honourable Member knows that we have a memorandum of understanding between the RDA and the RRA. So if the RRA requests survey in any place, any region, since the team will be going there, the geotechnical team and the RDA, so it is with much pleasure that I'll ask them to carry out the survey where necessary.
Can I request him?
I beg?
If they don't request, can I request that there's some problem sites like Grand Bay, Baladjirou, and can you look into it as well?
You can send a formal request to the ministry. Huh?
The Honourable Third Member for Rodrigues can come in this office.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sir, B435. Deputy Speaker, sir. Mauritius initially regulated the consumption of vaping devices and e-cigarettes in 2008 through the Public Health Restrictions on Tobacco Products Regulation 2008 by limiting the importation of such products strictly to personal consumption. Subsequently, vaping has been prohibited since 2023. Under the Public Health Restrictions on Tobacco Product Regulation 2022, vapes are categorized as electronic nicotine delivery systems and non-nicotine delivery systems, and these are banned. The regulations clearly define vapes and extend prohibition to accessories used with these devices, including filters and tubing. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, the House may wish to note that globally vaping devices exist as both disposable and non-disposable products. However, under the current legislation in Mauritius, no distinction is made between these categories and both are prohibited. The enforcement of the ban on the sale and import of vapes is a multi-stakeholder effort involving border control by the Customs Division of Mauritius Revenue Authority, as well as local enforcement by Public Health and Food Safety Inspectorate of my ministry and the Mauritius Police Force. I am further informed by the MRA that the number of passengers screened upon their arrival at the airport in 2025 were 27,443, and as at 15 April 2026, a total of 7,142 passengers had been screened. The methods of detection applied regarding the import of vapes include the scanning of passenger luggage, cargo and courier consignment, as well as the physical inspection and examination of such items. Additionally, intelligence and information sharing together with risk profiling are used to support detection efforts. The House may also wish to note that as part of the enforcement efforts by MRA, a total of 4,927 vaping devices and accessories were seized and destroyed in 2025, while 1,155 units have been seized and destroyed as at 15th April 2026. Additionally, at the level of my ministry, a total of 59 squad operations were carried out by the Public Health and Food Safety Inspectorate in 2025, during which 1,280 premises were visited. For 2026, as at date, 7 squads operations have been conducted and 52 premises were visited. With regard to Part B of the question, my ministry, through its Health Information, Education and Communication Unit, is actively implementing awareness and sensitization campaign in educational institutions on the harmful effect of tobacco use, including vaping. These programs aim to educate students on both the health risks and the legal implications associated with tobacco products and vaping. Sensitization activities include school-based awareness and sessions and talks, collaboration with the Ministry of Education and Human Resources and other stakeholders, and development of informational materials, including a pamphlet on vaping correctly under preparation by the Tobacco Control Unit. From January 2025 to date, a total of 662 awareness sessions have been conducted on the ill effects of smoking and vaping, reaching an estimated 7,556 students across primary schools, secondary schools, and Mauritius Institute of Training and Development institutions. In addition, my ministry, in collaboration with Attorney General's Office, the World Health Organization, and local NGO, have been conducting regular training sessions on tobacco regulations since 2023 to strengthen enforcement capacity. I am also informed that mass media campaigns were conducted in 2024 with emphasis on tobacco regulations and the ban on vaping. In 2025, 6 health information, education and communication officers were trained on tobacco-related issues, including vaping. Additionally, vaping was addressed as part of tobacco cessation efforts in 6 radio and television programs in 2025. I would like to inform the House that for 2026, my ministry will be holding a campaign focusing on the harmful effects of tobacco use, with particular emphasis on illicit vaping and capacity building workshops. A training workshop in collaboration with Ministry of Education and Human Resources will be held to further raise awareness on the consequences of tobacco and nicotine consumption, with a specific focus on vaping. New sensitization materials are currently being developed to address vaping among students and general population. My ministry is also collaborating through a standing committee with the Ministry of Education and Human Resources to revise the School Management Manual 2009 so as to incorporate vaping as a key component of tobacco control policies in schools.
The Honourable First Member for Piton. Suivez du rapport.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. B436, please.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I wish to inform the House that the policy of Ministry of Health and Wellness is founded on the principles of family-centered and child-friendly care, which recognize the presence of parents or guardians contributes positively to the emotional comfort, reassurance and recovery of hospitalized children. I am also informed that all children below the age of 16 years are admitted and managed by Pediatric unit. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as a general rule, one parent or authorized guardian is allowed to remain with the child at the bedside, subject to prevailing ward regulations, infection prevention and control measures, security requirements, medical condition of the patient, and the need to preserve privacy, safety, and comfort of other patients in the ward. Pediatric wards are predominantly staffed by female healthcare personnel who facilitates a supportive and appropriate environment for the care of admitted children. In line with the current practice, mothers are encouraged to stay with their hospitalized children in those wards to allow mothers to breastfeed their babies, thereby promoting child's welfare. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in the current health system, general wards are considered as common wards with common toilets and showers for all patients. As such, public hospitals do not have private wards with attached toilets and bathroom. In some wards, dedicated seating arrangements are available for only one accompanying parent, while in others, space limitations, ward configuration, or ongoing clinical activity may require adjustment. I am informed that allowing the presence of parents, including fathers or guardians, are addressed on a case-to-case basis by the ward manager, nursing administrator, and hospital management, taking into consideration the best interests of the child, medical advice, ward circumstances, and any special consideration. As such, appropriate flexibility is exercised whenever circumstances permit. I am further informed that a complaint was received by the Acting Regional Health Director of Flag Hospital regarding the stay of a father with his son aged 14 months on 12 April 2026. Given that no side wards were available at the hospital, necessary arrangements were made to provide a suitable space to accommodate both father and his son in cardiac ward. However, the father refused the proposal and absconded from the hospital with the child. A precautionary measure was lodged at the police post by the duty manager on call, and the child development unit was informed accordingly. I wish to point out that in this particular case, as already mentioned above, only female nurses are looking after children. In addition, there were mothers who were breastfeeding their children, and in these circumstances, it wasn't appropriate to allow their father to stay in the ward. Necessary arrangements were therefore made for their father to stay in another ward.
Yes.
Would the Honourable Minister confirm that this policy that they have is not up for single fathers, and maybe he will also confirm whether this same father has sued the previous government Ministry of Health in the past and got money for that?
Well, I am not aware what the father did earlier, but one thing is clear: how can the government or the ministry allow the fathers to be in wards where mothers are breastfeeding the children? This is logical. We cannot be accepted, and nobody will accept. And all the superintendent of all the hospitals are unanimous on this issue. We have given the father the chance of staying in the cardiac ward. We offered him. He refused, and then he absconded. He took the child and ran away. So in such a case, he is an irresponsible parent, and I don't have anything more to say on that.
Would the minister agree that there are side wards in pediatric wards, side rooms for such cases, and also in that case, if we follow this logic, then male doctors should not be working in pediatric wards?
I'm sorry, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. I would request the honourable member to visit Flag Hospital. There are no side wards there. And in that hospital, provisions are made. How can I allow a male to be with children, small kids, where the mothers are breastfeeding their children? This is impossible, unacceptable, immoral, and unethical. It can never be accepted.
You have made your point, Minister. The Honourable Third Member for Montagne Blanche and Grand Rivière. No, sorry. The Honourable Third Member for Couchability.
B437.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm informed by the Land Drainage Authority that the region of Bubwa was very severely impacted following several past flooding events. The primary cause of flooding in the area has been attributed to construction activities carried out along natural drainage paths without adequate consideration for stormwater evacuation. Consequently, surface runoff originating from the upstream sugarcane fields flows towards the residential areas, adversely affecting the region. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm further informed that a preliminary topographical survey of the region has been conducted by the LDA, and the following proposed mitigation measures have been earmarked. First, cut-off drain upstream of the residential area. The construction of a cut-off swale drain is being proposed upstream of the residential area to prevent storm water from channeling into the residential area. The collected runoff will then be directed to a safe discharge point at the Rivulet Cresson, located some 100 meters from the B49 road. Second, Ripaille-Nicolier Road, B49, upgrading of the existing roadside drains to ensure adequate hydraulic capacity and fitted with metal grating where necessary for proper ingress of surface runoff. Upgrading of the culvert crossing the Ripaille-Nicolier Road, B49, next to Bubwa football ground, reprofiling the road surface to direct maximum surface runoff to proposed upgrading of roadside drains and cross drains, clean existing drain along the Ripaille-Nicolier Road, B49, where warranted to ensure proper functioning. Third, lateral roads, Sibarat Lane, Mangra Lane, and Chedi Lane. Construction of roadside drains along the lateral roads with full metal grating modules and required cross drains based on site conditions, directing storm water to a safe and proper discharge point. Reprofile the road surface to direct maximum surface runoff to the newly proposed side drains and cross drains. Fourth, immediate measures undertaken by RDA, regular cleaning of existing drains along B49. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I'm further informed that the project is still at the inception stage at the level of the Land Drainage Authority, and once approved by its board, the project will be implemented by the designated agency, that is either the NDU, the RDA, or the DICL.
Yes.
Will the Honourable Minister consider to earmark fund in the next coming budget for this project?
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, as I said, we are at the inception stage. Obviously, once the design and everything will be ready, obviously we'll go for financial clearance.
The Honourable Third Member for Montagne Blanche.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. B438.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am informed by the NLTA that 3 buses owned by individual operators are licensed to provide bus services along Route 16D, Rose Hill, Place Morgio, Central Flag via Bel Air, Cité La Lucie, Belle Rose, Clémentia, and Camp de Masque Pavé. However, only one bus is effectively providing service on this road. This bus operates a single trip daily, departing from Central Flag bus station at approximately 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:45 actually, towards Rose Hill via Bel Air and Clémentia. The 3 buses hold a dual license, also authorizing them to operate along Route 15, that is Rose Hill to Flag via Quartier Militaire, which is a more lucrative route. Therefore, they focus on their operation on that route instead of 16D. I am made to understand that the limited level of service along Route 16D is mainly attributable to a very low passenger demand along the route, including in localities such as Petit Cabane, Clémentia, and Belle Rose during the day. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, following representations from the Honourable Member and a letter dated 24th March 2026 from a representative of the Mocha Flag Bus Owners Cooperative Society Limited, operators serving along Route 16 and 16A, have expressed their willingness to operate along Route 16D, which is part of your substantive equation, on a daily roster basis. In this context, a meeting is being scheduled at the level of the NLTA with operators of bus routes 15 and 16 tentatively on 23rd of April 2026, that is day after tomorrow, to examine the proposal with a view to improving the frequency of operation and reliability of services along Route 16D. The time frame for implementation will be determined following consultations with all stakeholders concerned. The NLTA will, however, take prompt remedial measures to ensure an adequate service along Route 16D. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, it is also to be noted that alternative public transport is available along Route 113A, that is Port-Louis, Victoria Square, Bel Air, which serves Camp de Mars-Pavé, Belle-Rose, Clémenceau, and Petite Cabane. Some shortcomings have also been reported on services along this route as well, as these are being looked into, and they are being looked into by the NLT. Again, the paucity of number of passengers in these localities being the main reason for the reluctance of bus operators to provide the required services. Deputy Speaker, sir, the NLT, under the direction of my ministry, has intensified enforcement and crackdown operations across key regions to address irregularities in bus operations. Sustained monitoring with unannounced inspection are being effected on a regular basis, with a particular focus on non-compliance, such as road breaking and failure to operate scheduled services. Where breaches are committed, the NLTA is establishing contraventions, and in case of recurrence, disciplinary action against the license holders will be initiated. These ongoing crackdown operations will be further intensified to ensure strict compliance, restore discipline among operators, and safeguard the reliability of public transport services for commuters. Deputy Speaker, sir, I wish to also inform the House that the forthcoming fleet management system, for which tenders are currently being evaluated, will be a game changer in bringing efficiency in our bus public service. In addition, my ministry is working on the bus services bill, which will regulate the services standards and operations of buses. To end, Deputy Speaker, sir, I also wish to reassure the honourable member that in this context, due attention will be given to the services along Route 16D. With the arrangements being made by the NLTA, the service will hopefully meet commuter needs. Thank you.
Yes, honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. I want to bring to the attention of the honourable member, or Minister of the Land and Transport, that Route 16D, namely Rosil via Belle-Rose, Clémenceau, and Camp de Mars, Pavé, already exists on NLTA website and to be operated by buses of Route 16. Can the honourable minister look into it, please?
I won't be surprised that it is true. Like I said earlier, there is low passenger demand for that particular route because there is no travelers, almost no travelers. But in the meeting that is going to happen day before, after tomorrow, I will ask the chairperson to particularly look at this issue.
The honourable second member for Vieux-Grand-Port-Rosebel.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Sir, it's question B/439, please.
Monsieur le Président, la CWA m'informe que le nouveau réservoir de service de Nouvelle-France a une capacité de stockage de 2500 m3. Elle fournit de l'eau à 3530 abonnés dans la région de Nouvelle-France, Grand Port Road, partie basse d'Union Park et de Savane Road. Ces régions bénéficient d'une alimentation en eau intermittente. L'eau provient de 2 forages à Nouvelle-France et du réservoir de 16e mille. La CWA a annoncé avoir pris plusieurs mesures pour améliorer l'approvisionnement en eau, ainsi, afin de remédier rapidement aux pannes fréquentes des pompes survenues ces derniers mois. La CWA a remplacé la pompe défectueuse. De plus, pendant les périodes de coupure, à titre de mesure palliative et jusqu'à ce que l'approvisionnement en eau soit rétabli, la CWA fournit des camions-citernes aux consommateurs des régions de Nouvelle-France et d'Union Park selon les besoins. Monsieur le Président, j'ai également appris que la CWA envisageait le forage de puits supplémentaires dans la région, qui seraient équipés de pompes de secours afin de maintenir un approvisionnement constant en eau en cas de panne d'une pompe sur ces sites. À moyen terme, Monsieur le Président, la CWA procédera au renouvellement des des conduites principales sur une longueur approximative de 1,2 km entre le commissariat de police de Nouvelle-France et le rond-point de Nouvelle-France, dans le cadre du programme de remplacement de tuyaux financé par la ligne de crédit indienne. Ce renouvellement permettra d'accroître l'efficacité du réseau, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de pertes, bien sûr, de distribution et le volume d'eau alimentant le réservoir. Ce projet devrait être achevé d'ici 2 ans. En outre, la possibilité de forer un nouveau puits en amont du réservoir de Nouvelle-France est envisagée afin de compléter le dit réservoir. Bon, c'est rien de définitif, ce nouveau forage. À terme, une fois la situation d'épuration de la Marie modernisée, la cellulaire prévoit d'accroître les prélèvements d'eau du réservoir de 16e mille alimenté par celui de la brasserie. Ceci devrait améliorer l'approvisionnement en eau de la région de Nouvelle-France.
Yes.
Mr. the Deputy Speaker, sir, can the Honourable Minister inform the House as to how effective and reliable the short-term measures would be, being given that the inhabitants of Nouvelle-France have been deprived of water shortages on a regular basis?
Je voudrais dire, l'honorable membre, que les pannes que nous avons eues, Monsieur le Président, les pannes que nous avons eues 3 pannes, hein, 3 pannes dans cette région de Nouvelle-France. Il y a eu le 10 février, le 12 février, le 26 février. Donc, 2 pannes que nous avons eues, ce sont des problèmes d'électricité du CEB, qui est arrivé le 10 et le 12. Et le 26 février, c'est en raison des fluctuations sur le... Vous savez, dans les pompes que nous mettons sur le réseau, dans les réservoirs, donc sur le réseau, les pompes sont abîmées un petit peu plus rapidement. Donc, ce que nous avons fait, comme je l'ai dit dans ma réponse initiale, c'est que nous allons mettre des pompes de secours à côté des pompes qu'il y a existantes afin de maintenir un approvisionnement constant. Donc, bien souvent, quand une pompe tombe en panne, ça prend du temps à la CWA pour intervenir. Donc ça prend beaucoup de temps et le réseau, après avoir retiré l'eau, le réseau se retrouve à sec, il faudra enlever l'air, donc ça prend beaucoup de temps, le flushing, comme on dit dans le jargon. Donc ce que nous faisons dans cette région, c'est que nous mettons une pompe de secours pour que l'eau soit un peu plus constante.
Yes.
Given that the long-term solution will take 2 years for implementation, and the fact that the Honourable Minister has stated that the short-term measures, that there will be 2 additional new pumps that will be fixed so as to resolve the issue. And do we know the time frame for those 2 new pumps that will be fixed?
Ce sera fait assez vite parce que il n'y a pas que dans le long terme, mais en moyen terme, nous pensons aussi faire des forages, la possibilité de forer de nouveaux puits en amont et aussi nous avons passé une commande pour 15 CPF au coût de 320 millions de roupies, les containerized plant filters, et que nous allons mettre dans les rivières tout autour de Nouvelle-France pour améliorer la distribution. Mais il y a dans l'immédiat les pompes, dans le moyen terme les forages et dans le long terme le changement des tuyaux et aussi d'autres projets.
Yes, honourable members, the table has been advised that the following PQs have been withdrawn. B441, B485, B492, B450, B458, B473, B489, B491, and B463. The next question is the Honourable Fourth Member for Rodrigues. Honourable Edouard.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, B440.
Monsieur le Président, en ce qui concerne la partie A de la question, je suis informé par le Central Electricity Board que la consommation énergétique quotidienne moyenne estimée des véhicules électriques sur l'île Maurice pour le mois de mars 2026 s'élève à 21 723 kWh, pour un total de 2260 clients. En ce qui concerne l'île Rodrigues, je suis également informé que l'infrastructure de recharge pour les véhicules électriques a été mise en service récemment, le 30 mars 2026, et que la consommation énergétique quotidienne moyenne correspondante pour le mois de mars 2026 est estimée à 3,5 kWh pour un client. On a seulement un client enregistré au CEB et pour Rodrigues. Monsieur le Président, le CEB gère actuellement trois programmes visant à promouvoir l'utilisation des énergies renouvelables pour la recharge des véhicules électriques, à savoir le programme CEB Solar PV pour la recharge des véhicules électriques, et vous bénéficiez en même temps d'un time of use. Donc, si vous utilisez l'électricité pour charger votre voiture à une heure tardive, un peu après 9 heures du soir, donc vous avez un tarif plus bas. Le programme CEB pour la recharge des véhicules électriques des entreprises. Donc, les entreprises aussi ont ce programme. Ils permettent à leurs employés de charger leurs véhicules. Et troisième, nous avons le programme CEB pour les fournisseurs de services. Les compagnies de voitures offrant un service de public recharge des véhicules électriques. Les objectifs des programmes d'énergie renouvelable mentionnés ci-dessus pour la recharge des véhicules électriques sont principalement pour réduire les émissions de CO2 dans le secteur du transport et de poursuivre la décarbonation du réseau électrique national. Dans le cadre de ces dispositifs, les propriétaires de véhicules électriques sont autorisés à installer, depuis quelque temps, je l'ai annoncé il y a 2 semaines de cela, les systèmes photovoltaïques PV d'une puissance maximale de 10 kW sur leur toit, leur parking, leur maison, leur cour, comme ils veulent, et ensuite injecter le surplus d'électricité dans le réseau. Donc, celui ou celle qui veut installer 10 kW, pas plus que 10 kW sur sa maison, sur son parking, sur un terrain quelque part, donc ils ont qu'à informer le CEB. Non pas demander la permission au CEB. Informer le CEB et vous faites l'installation. Par ailleurs, un tarif heure pleine, creuse, ce qu'on appelle le tarif 150C, a été mis en place afin d'encourager la recharge des véhicules pendant les heures creuses, soit entre 9 heures du soir et 4 heures du matin le lendemain. Donc, quand la demande est moindre. Monsieur le Président, en ce qui concerne la partie B de la question, je suis informé par le CEB que 93 raccordements ont été effectués dans le cadre de 3 schémas, comme je l'ai expliqué, pour une capacité installée de 2768 kW. Cependant, dans le cadre de ces programmes, l'installation des systèmes photovoltaïques pour recharge des véhicules électriques est facultative. Mon ministère, Monsieur le Président, modifiera prochainement ces programmes afin de rendre obligatoire l'alimentation de tous les véhicules électriques par des énergies renouvelables. C'est un peu un faux débat. Vous avez une voiture électrique et vous parlez d'énergie renouvelable, mais quand vous faites votre charge, on brûle du charbon, on brûle de l'eau. C'est un peu un faux débat. C'est pour cette raison que nous avons l'intention au sein du ministère de modifier la loi pour que tous celles qui achètent une voiture électrique ou qui possèdent déjà une voiture électrique, ils sont obligés dans un moratoire de quelque temps de mettre des panneaux photovoltaïques pour charger leur véhicule. Il convient de souligner, Monsieur le Président, que le CEB a récemment lancé le projet photovoltaïque solaire, permettant en particulier, comme je viens de dire, d'installer 10 kW de système voltaïque avec un système de stockage de batteries. Ces programmes devraient relancer l'adoption d'énergie renouvelable dans toute la République.
Honorable First Member for Port North and Mount Island.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Question B 442.
Honorable Minister of Housing and Land.
At its meeting of Friday, the 10th of April 2026, Cabinet agreed to the setting up of an interministerial committee to look into all issues pertaining to ex-CHA EDC houses containing asbestos. The committee would be chaired by me and would comprise my colleagues, the Minister of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change, the Minister of National Infrastructure, the Minister of Health and Wellness, and the Minister of Local Government. Unfortunately, the Ministerial Committee has not yet met. We have just gone through the Cabinet of last week, waited for confirmation, and that's the process. I am informed that in the meantime, Statistics Mauritius is carrying out a survey to determine inter alia the present number of ex-CHA houses containing asbestos, the state of the buildings and profile of the house owners or occupiers. The preliminary findings are expected before the end of May 2026. The survey will provide updated and additional data for proper recommendations to be made to government. So as the Honourable Member would agree, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, this survey being carried out is of utmost importance in order to be able to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Yes.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président. Merci au ministre pour sa réponse. Est-ce que le nouveau comité mis en place et qui sera désormais présidé par le ministère des Terres et du Logement, par le ministère de l'Environnement, entre autres, prendra en considération le travail déjà commencé par le comité qui a été présidé par l'ex-junior ministre, d'ailleurs c'est le ministre même qui me l'avait dit, et qu'est-ce qu'il en sera des recommandations déjà faites? Merci.
Well, as I've already explained, all such recommendations will also be taken into account when we are to make our report and recommendations. However, what is of utmost importance, as I'm just repeating that part, is that we need to be able to have a proper survey to determine the exact state of affairs of this whole situation. Without that survey, we'll be just as though we're shooting in the dark. And I do not want to be put in a situation and to put government in a situation where I'm just coming up with theory. I want to be very practical in the approach, and this is precisely what the committee wants to do. So this survey will be of help in order for us to be able to assess the situation. Now, the last survey that was carried out was back in 2022, November, and that survey there were still around 1,560 out of 3,113 EDC houses. So this survey has to be updated, and there are additional data that we need in order to be able to make a decision. But as I've said, the survey is going to be ready by next month, so that was a good thing for us to proceed.
Yes, you have a question?
Merci. Une des principales préoccupations pour les habitants des maisons en amiante, c'est d'avoir une alternative, un endroit où ils peuvent habiter quand leur maison sera détruite. Étant donné que le ministre est ministre des Terres et du Logement et responsable de la NHDC, peut-il nous confirmer si le nouveau comité interministériel prendra en considération la recommandation selon laquelle la priorité doit être donnée aux habitants des maisons en amiante pour des maisons NHDC?
I've gone through the questions that were asked in this assembly some time back, and if I'm not mistaken, the former Deputy Prime Minister, the former Deputy Prime Minister, had answered a question to the very same honourable member, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. The question is, as it stands, all NHDC and NSLD houses are for those who do not own property. So to be able to change that policy, because I guess this is what the honourable member is trying to get at from many years ago now, is to give priority to those that have the EDC houses and to give them NSLD houses. So the answer that was given then was no. And this is one of the very few areas where I agree with the former Minister of Housing. The answer is no. We will not be able to put them in a situation where we give priority to those who own houses, the issue being that they have to have houses reconstructed. Whilst I agree that those houses that need to be reconstructed, there's a cost to it, but we will get to the bridge and cross it when we get there. But as it stands right now, I am not ready to take a policy decision of giving priority to people who already own a house and to give them priority over those who do not own a house and have been waiting for many, many years.
Yes. One question, Yes.
Thank you. Est-ce que le ministre des Terres et du Logement peut-il confirmer à la Chambre et aussi aux habitants donc, des maisons amiantées, est-ce qu'ils auront une subvention provenant de l'État? Merci.
See, if I were to give you an answer with regards to that today, what would therefore be the point of having the Interministerial Committee? The whole point of the Interministerial Committee is to take stock of the survey being carried out, as I've said, take into consideration all reports and all work that has been done by all parties, and then make recommendations to Cabinet. And it is only then that I'll be in a position to come with a formula as to what the solution would be. So right now, it would be really premature for me to go as far as that, as pronouncing myself on that issue.
Okay, one last question.
En réalité, le grant actuel est de 130 000 roupies, ce qui est absolument pas suffisant pour pouvoir reconstruire une maison. Les matériaux de construction coûtent beaucoup plus cher. Le ministre m'a donné la même réponse que l'ancien ministre, mais le ministre reconnaît-il que l'État a une responsabilité pour donner une alternative à ses habitants, pour leur donner une nouvelle maison, puisque dans le passé, ce sont des maisons toxiques qui leur ont été données par l'État. Donc aujourd'hui, reconnaît-il la responsabilité de l'État dans cette démarche de leur donner une alternative?
Once again, you see, when I was put in presence of the issue of asbestos houses, I have made it a point of reading all reports that exist, expert reports that have pronounced themselves on the toxicity or the non-toxic element of those houses. I see that politicians from many, many years now have been pronouncing themselves as though it is a fact that those are toxic houses. But I am in possession of other report that basically does not confirm that. So I want to proceed with prudence and not with an alarmist attitude where I get people to start getting scared and simply give and promise them money when in fact there was no need for it. So let us proceed in a very dispassionate manner, even though it is a very important issue. Let's analyze the experts' reports. What is the status? Is it toxic or is it not? If it is, it will be put before Cabinet with the report, and then Cabinet will decide what the situation is. But what I'm not ready to do is to say today that government gave houses that were toxic to people. That I am prepared to say is not true.
Okay. The next question, the Honourable Third Member for Portrush North and Mont Island.
B444, thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, at the outset, I wish to inform the House that the Road Traffic Act was amended in September 2019 through the Road Traffic Amendment Number 3, Act 2019, Act 24 of 2019, with a view to facilitating the electronic payment of fixed penalty notices. It was also announced in the Budget Speech 2022-23 of the then Honourable Minister of Finance that the payment of road traffic fines would be offered online. However, the Road Traffic Act Amendment Number 3 of Act 2019 was not proclaimed as enhancement of both IT system of the Police Department and the Master and Registrar of the Supreme Court were in progress. In fact, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, in his report for the financial year 2024-25, the Director of Audit has observed that the revenue from fixed penalty notices served by the police officers were collected at district courts and credited as fines under the control of the judiciary instead of a revenue item for the Mauritius Police Force. Therefore, the Director of Audit recommended to digitalize the whole process of raising fines and payment of same. The reform is expected to enhance efficiency, transparency, and proper revenue tracking. Deputy Speaker, sir, as regard to the main question, I have been informed that in February this year, I have been informed in February this year by the Master and Registrar of the Supreme Court that the system for online payment of fixed penalty notices on the Supreme Court portal is technically ready to accept online payments of fixed penalty notices through mobile banking apps, internet banking facilities, debit and credit cards, or Vacoas account transfers. The Police Department has also informed that their IT system is ready. They are proposing in parallel to look into the possibility to use the Be Safe Maurice mobile app for payment of fixed penalty notices. Mr. Hamdouad is aware of what I'm saying. Deputy Speaker, sir, I am further informed by the Commissioner of Police that the amendments brought to the Road Traffic Act in 2019 are not fully aligned with those introduced by the Road Traffic Amendment Act of 2025 in January this year in relation to the reintroduction of the penalty point system. Therefore, the Commissioner of Police has recommended that the new piece of legislation be enacted to make provision for online payment of fixed penalty notices in line with the Road Traffic Amendment Act 2025. My ministry has initiated consultations with the Attorney General's office in that respect.
Yes. You have a question?
I had a question. I wanted to ask the Honourable Minister whether he would consider amending the law to allow for the payment of fixed penalty beyond the 28-day limit, as it is now impossible after the 28 days, which means that you have to go to court, and that only burdens the court with even more work, when it could be, and that is the question, whether the Minister would consider allowing for payment after, even with a penalty system imposed for a higher amount to be paid, so long as you get to do it before it is fixed on the cause list of the court. It would be, I think, in the interest of your ministry and justice itself.
As the law stands, Deputy Speaker, sir, if the 28 days period are exceeded, the fines and the points are both doubled, as per the amendment brought in January this year, December last year. So there will have to be amendment to the Road Traffic Act once again for that to occur.
If I may, Mr. I may. The issue, I understand, but the issue is once you fail to pay within the 28 days, you have to go to court. You have to wait for the notice to be issued to you, the summons, after months, sometimes years, and you cannot pay, even though, for whatever reason, you may have neglected to pay within the 28 days. So, as far as the payment is concerned, whether he proposes now, especially for those offences which do not fall under the penalty point system, whether he proposes to bring amendments so to allow that we can pay at any time, even if there is an introduction of a penalty, as I said, so long as you can do it.
We'll look into it.
Thank you. Honourable members, the table have been advised that the following PQs have been withdrawn. B481, B468, B476, B460, B472, B477, B456, B475, B484, B478, again, B469, B480, B482, B455, B454, B483, B465, B446, B464, B449, and B486. Time is over.
Motion.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2, Standing Order 10.
Seconded. Seconded. The question is that all of the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Statement by Ministers.
Statement by Ministers. Non-public bills. First reading.
The Honourable Minister of Information Technology, Communication and Innovation.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I move that the Electronic Transactions Amendment Bill, number 5 of 2026, be read a first time.
Seconded. Seconded.
Public bill. Second reading.
Excuse me, Honourable Member. Honourable Minister. The Speaker will take it.
seated. Yes, Honourable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, I move that the Certificate of Character Bill number 2 of 2026 be read a second time. Let me start by saying this, Madam Speaker. I make no apology for what will be a lengthier than usual intervention in support of this bill. The Certificate of Character Bill is yet another piece of the puzzle we are building for the benefit of the people. One may wonder what this bill has to do with the rule of law or access to justice for that matter. But then it would be missing the point, which is that this bill is in fact a liberating piece of legislation. It is a necessary step to promote social reintegration for persons who have had a brush with the law and who continue to carry the stigma of a criminal conviction, which always weighs heavily on the convicted person, whether with regards to his entrenched right to work, his right to free movement, and of course, one must never forget the indirect effect on his family. Before turning to the details of this bill, it is useful to begin with two simple, benign questions. First, what is a certificate of character? And second, why does it matter? A certificate of character, or a certificat de caractère, is an official document issued by the Director of Public Prosecutions, certifying whether a person has a criminal record. It is still often referred to as certificat de moralité, or even in common parlance, we hear that a person peut attendre gain sur moralité. He or she is waiting for that valuable document, although a literal translation from the Creole might lead to another concept altogether. This certificate, by whatever name called, is nowadays almost always required for employment, for further studies, for visa and immigration procedures, and for a range of other official purposes. For many people, therefore, it is not an abstract legal document. It is the paper that stands between them and a job, a seat at university, the possibility of traveling abroad, or the possibility of a new start in their lives. That is why this bill matters and why it has been eagerly awaited. Madam Speaker, prior to 2006, there was no legislative framework governing so-called certificates of character. These were issued under an administrative practice which had developed over time. In 2006, the Certificate of Morality Act provided for the first time a basic statutory framework. That act introduced, subject to certain exceptions, a cut-off period of 10 years in relation to crimes and misdemeanors. It also provided that a person who had been granted a free pardon under Section 75 of the Constitution would be deemed never to have been convicted of the relevant offence. But the Act, for example, made no provision for the Director of Public Prosecutions to delegate his powers. In 2012, the Certificate of Character Act repealed the earlier law and introduced a number of changes. The title was changed from Certificate of Morality to Certificate of Character, and rightly so, because the law should not pretend that it is the universal judge of morality. The law deals in legal consequences, and it should do so with clarity and restraint. The 2012 Act reduced the cut-off period applicable for certain less serious offences from 10 to 5 years.
It allowed the Director of Public Prosecutions to delegate his powers to the Commissioner of Police or another officer. It extended the categories of persons who are deemed never to have been convicted. It also introduced a 3-month limitation period for repeat applications subject to certain conditions in order to reduce unnecessary administrative burden. Those changes were essential and useful then, but with hindsight, they did not go far enough. Madam Speaker, the present law, the 2012 legislation, has remained in important respects unduly harsh. It has caused real hardship to people convicted of less serious offences because convictions have continued to appear in their certificates in circumstances where that disclosure serves little public good but causes lasting private damage. People have been denied jobs. People have been denied access to university. People who had paid their debt to society have found that society was still presenting them with a bill. That is not good policy, it is not very wise, and in many cases, it is just not just. A criminal sentence, Madam Speaker, is imposed by a court according to law, but once that sentence has been served, the punishment has been meted out. A second, social punishment is not helpful. Justice is not served if a minor mistake becomes, in practice, a lifelong civil disability. Madam Speaker, the rule of law is not only about sanction. It is also about proportion, fairness, and the conditions of reintegration. A society is made safer, not more dangerous, when people who have offended and who have done what the law required of them to pay their dues are given a fair opportunity to work, to study, to support a family, and to live as citizens rather than permanent suspects. I put the question fair and square, Madam Speaker. How shall we prevent reoffending if we tell someone that there is no path for him to lead a reformed life? Rehabilitation, Madam Speaker, is not softness. It is social intelligence. It is also basic justice. This is why the Honourable Prime Minister promised earlier in our mandate that the current law would be changed, and we are today honouring that promise. This bill, therefore, repeals the existing 2012 Act and replaces it with a more just, more coherent, and more humane framework. Its object is clear: to reduce unnecessary barriers to employment, social reintegrations for persons convicted of offences, whilst preserving proper safeguards for the protection of society. In other words, it seeks the right balance between second chances and public safety. One of the problems with the present law is that certain convictions may continue to appear in a certificate for life, even where in any meaningful sense they should be treated as spent. That defeats the very idea of a spent conviction. Now, if the law recognized that after a certain period of time and subject to certain conditions, a person should be allowed to move on, then the certificate should reflect that reality. Clause 5 of the bill addresses that issue. It provides that no conviction will appear in a person's certificate of character where that person has been granted a free pardon, has been discharged absolutely or conditionally, or falls within the categories set out in that clause, subject, of course, to the exceptions for serious offences provided for in the first schedule. Thus, subject to that caveat, a conviction will no longer appear where either the person has been given only a fine not exceeding 50,000 rupees instead of the current threshold of 5,000 rupees, and 2 years instead of 5 years have elapsed since the date of conviction. Or, secondly, the person has, whether or not he has also been fined, been sentenced to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years, and 10 years have lapsed since the date of that conviction. And thirdly, the offence was committed whilst the person was still under the age of 18. That last provision is particularly important. A civilized legal system does not deny that young people make mistakes, but neither should it decide that a mistake made in youth must follow a person forever into adulthood. If we speak seriously about children, reform and the possibility of redemption, then the law must speak seriously too. However, Madam Speaker, it is important to stress here that these new parameters will not apply to those serious offences listed in the first schedule to the bill. Convictions listed there will continue to appear on the certificate of character indefinitely. This bill, Madam Speaker, also addresses discrimination in employment. Clause 4 provides that where a person's certificate of character specifies that he has been convicted of a crime or misdemeanor, his employer shall not discriminate against him where that offence is unrelated to the nature of his employment, and a prospective employer shall not discriminate against him where that offence is unrelated to the employment for which he is being considered. That is obviously a sensible provision. A criminal record is not a magic answer to every employment question. Relevance matters, context matters, not every past offence bears on every future occupation. To say otherwise is simply to replace judgment with reflex. Clause 12, Madam Speaker, makes the necessary consequential amendment to the Equal Opportunities Act so that this protection is clearly reflected there as well. It provides that no employer or prospective employer shall discriminate against another person where that person's certificate of character specifies a conviction which is not related to his employment or to the employment for which he is being considered. And here may I add for good measure that the chairperson of the Equal Opportunities Commission was consulted in relation to that amendment. Clause 7, Madam Speaker, deals with the mode of application for a certificate of character. It also provides for regulations to be made by the Attorney General in consultation with the Director of Public Prosecutions in relation to matters connected with the application process. That is entirely proper, the mode of application being essentially administrative. It must be workable, efficient, and capable of adjustment when practical experience shows that improvement is needed. Not every administrative detail belongs to the body of an act. Now let me turn to the first schedule of the bill, which lists the serious offences which will continue to appear on a certificate of character. Generally, there has been a policy decision, Madam Speaker, by the government to keep certain offences on the first schedule and consequently on certificates for life. These are serious offences such as offences against children, aggravated assaults, murders, terrorism, trafficking in persons, murder, manslaughter, rape, dangerous drug offences, etc. However, this schedule has been revised for three principal reasons. First, the current schedule refers to several provisions of the law which have already been repealed. To that extent, it is outdated. Secondly, a number of serious offences which plainly ought to appear in a certificate of character are not presently included. Thirdly, and importantly, the current schedule is not user-friendly. It often refers only to sections of enactments without indicating in ordinary language the offences to which those sections relate. The new first schedule corrects those defects. It no longer refers to repealed laws. It broadens the list of serious offences where this is necessary for the protection of society. And it adds in a third column a description of the offence concerned so that the schedule can be understood not only by lawyers with a statute book open in front of them, but by ordinary citizens reading the law as it should be read, plainly. Madam Speaker, the list of serious offences has been revised as follows. Clause 9 of this very bill, which criminalises tampering with, forging or fraudulently altering a certificate of character, has been included. Secondly, the Child Protection Act, with its corresponding sections, has been removed, given that this Act has since 2020 been repealed by the Children's Act of that same year. Accordingly, a number of provisions under the Children's Act 2020, which had not been included when that Act came into operation 6 years ago, have now been included, thereby plugging a significant gap. Thirdly, previously, all offences under the Dangerous Drugs Act were considered to be serious offences, and any offence under that Act had to remain on the certificate of character for life. Even a small fine of 5,000 rupees for possession of a very small amount of ganja for personal use or for smoking ganja would remain on the certificate of character for life. In effect, that was a lifelong sentence for a minor charge, and that was very unfair. It was important, in our view, to carve out from offences under the Dangerous Drugs Act that type of offence. So today, a fine of up to 50,000 rupees for the possession of a dangerous drug in a minimal quantity for personal use or for smoking would eventually disappear from the certificate of character after 2 years. Fourthly, sections 16 to 20 of the Cyber Security and Cybercrime Act, for example, misuse of fake profile, cyberbullying, cyber extortion, revenge pornography, and cyber terrorism, have been added to the list. Sections 3 and 4 of the Financial Intelligence and Anti-Money Laundering Act and the Prevention of Corruption Act have been removed, since they have been repealed and replaced since 2023 by the Financial Crimes Act. Accordingly, the relevant sections under the Financial Crimes Commission Act have been added to the list. Sections 58, 59, 64 and 65 of the Representation of the People's Act, that is, illegal payment, corrupt withdrawal of candidature, bribery and treating, and undue influence, which are considered to be serious offences, have been added to the list. Causing death by careless driving when under the influence of alcohol, drug, or intoxicating substance, in breach of the new Section 123D of the Road Traffic Act, is now considered to be a serious offence, serious enough to be included in that schedule, Madam Speaker. Lastly, all the sections of the Criminal Code have been reviewed. Some have been removed either because they have already been repealed or because considered to be less serious offences given the sentence provided, and some new sections of the Criminal Code have been added. For examples, we have sections 52 to 56, 76A, 85, 87, et j'en passe, which have been removed since they no longer exist, and offences such as enticing away servants, pawnbroking and money lending without a lawful authority, hindering judicial sale, disturbing a religious ceremony, involuntary homicide, winds and blows, taking part in an unlawful assembly, have been removed since they are not as serious as warranting that they remain on that list. Here, Madam Speaker, I must add that amendments will be brought at committee stage to reflect the fact that after careful review, it is now being proposed that some further offences do not deserve to be on the first schedule list of serious offences, while others ought to be included in that list. And last night I have, because of that, circulated to all members of the House a new amended schedule with all the changes tracked so that they can follow what will happen at committee stage on the next occasion. One of the offences which would not remain on that list is, for example, simple larceny, a very common offence which young offenders may commit and whose consequences stay with them for life. At the same time, more serious cases of larceny, such as larceny with violence, larceny by night breaking, will remain on the first schedule. This, Madam Speaker, is a concrete example of the balancing exercise which we are doing here between rehabilitation and keeping society safe. Madam Speaker, the bill also brings consistency between the English and French versions of the certificate itself. a comparative reading of the present forms revealed unnecessary differences and some inaccuracies. There are also discrepancies in the explanatory notes and grammatical and structural defects in the French text. These have all been addressed in the second and third schedules to the bill.
Wow.
The bill also extends the validity of a certificate from 3 months to 4 months. It is a modest amendment, but useful practical improvement. Now, Madam Speaker, before I conclude, I wish to say a word about the suggestion that I've read about in the press, made in some quarters, that there was no need for a new bill and that a few amendments to the existing Act would have sufficed. I do not share that view. The bill before the House runs to nearly 29 pages. The current law is 14 pages long. If we had proceeded by amendment, the amending legislation would itself have been longer and more cumbersome than the Act being amended. Almost every section of the existing law would have had to be amended or repealed. New provisions would have had to be inserted. All 3 schedules would effectively have to be repealed and replaced. At some point, Madam Speaker, one must choose between patchwork and comprehensive legislative drafting. This bill chooses clarity. When a statutory scheme is being substantially reworked, clarity is better served by repeal and replacement than by a long trail of textual surgery. Madam Speaker, this bill has been prepared through close collaboration between my office, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Law Reform Commission. I here place on record my appreciation for their work and their input. The reform before this House, Madam Speaker, today is a practical act, but it is also something more than that. It reflects a view of justice. A view that the law must protect society, certainly, but also a view that the law must leave room for amendment of life, not only amendment of statutes. A fair legal system is one that punishes where punishment is due, but does not continue to punish when the demands of justice have already been met. That, in essence, Madam Speaker, is what this bill seeks to do. And with those words, I commend the bill to the House.
Thank you. It has to be seconded. Thank you, Minister of Agriculture. Maybe it would be wise to break for tea now. Then you can make your speech, Leader of the Opposition.